Imagine a love so relentless, so one-sided, that it reshapes destiny itself. A love where the pursued would rather surrender their very being than submit. This is the myth of Apollo and Daphne, a story of gods, power, and the extremes of desire and resistance. But beyond the verses of Ovid, what does this myth reveal about ancient Greek values? And how does it echo in today's conversations about power, consent, and autonomy? In the aftermath of the Titanomachy, the gods of Olympus sought to establish order. Apollo, god of the sun, music, and prophecy, was one of the most revered deities. But like many gods, his power did not extend to controlling his own emotions. According to the myth, Apollo mocked Eros, otherwise known as Cupid, the god of love, for wielding a bow and claiming that such weapons were meant for warriors and not children. In response, Eros struck Apollo with a golden arrow, igniting an insatiable desire for the river nymph Daphne. But Eros also shot Daphne with a lead arrow, one that ensured she would never return his affection. What followed was one of the most famous pursuits in all of mythology. Apollo, consumed by passion, chased Daphne through the forests, pleading with her to stop, promising love and protection. But Daphne, a sworn devotee of Artemis, wished to remain untouched, free from the bonds of marriage or romance. Her fear was not unfounded. The gods of Olympus were known for their relentless desires, pursuits that often ended in forced unions or worse. In this moment, Daphne's only option was flight. Apollo, despite his divine speed, could not immediately catch Daphne. And the chase became a test of wills, a struggle between divine power and mortal autonomy. As he closed in, she cried out to her father, Peneus, the river god, pleading for salvation. And in an act of irreversible transformation, she was turned into a laurel tree. Apollo reached out just in time to feel her body harden beneath his touch, her limbs becoming branches, her hair turning to leaves. The pursuit was over. But rather than accept defeat, Apollo made a declaration. If he could not have her as a lover, he would claim her as a symbol. The laurel tree would forever be sacred to him, a mark of victory, wisdom, and poetic excellence. On the surface, this is a myth about unfulfilled love and transformation. But you see, it's also a reflection of a recurring theme in mythology, how power disregards the will of those beneath it. Daphne's escape isn't just about one god's pursuit. It's a statement on the lengths that someone will go in order to avoid submission. The fact that Apollo rebrands his failures as a triumph, claiming the laurel as his own, raises questions about how society reframes resistance. Over time, the laurel, once a symbol of protection, ironically became a mark of victory, worn by Roman emperors, Olympic athletes, and Renaissance poets. The story also mirrors real-world dynamics and power struggles. How many times throughout history have those in power rebranded their dominance as destiny, love, or even protection? Daphne's plea is one echoed in cultures across time. The fight for autonomy, the freedom from coercion, and the right to do as she pleases. And Apollo, his desires mirror that of other Greek gods who acted without consequence. Zeus, Poseidon, Dionysus, all figures who had unchecked power, and it came at the expense of others. The Greeks themselves were not oblivious to this. Their myths often served as both celebration and a critique of divine rule. The myth of Apollo and Daphne, is more than an ancient story. It's a stark reminder of how power, control, and resistance have all shaped humanity. It's a story where the wool had been pulled over people's eyes for a little bit of time, and now they finally saw the light to a degree and embraced their new reality in the best way that they could. And while Apollo may have worn the laurel as a symbol of his victory, the truth does ultimately remain that Daphne was never his to claim. These are Interesting Things with JC.